Hey guys, welcome to Bite Me. This is Interview with JayDee Milo. Anyone who follows me knows that I've lost all faith in men, 3 failed marriages, 2 baby daddies, and 1 lifetime of trauma. Single moms know why I feel the way I feel. Why wouldn't we feel that way? We give our whole trust to someone with the mere expectation that at a very basic level, the bare minimum would be reciprocated. Yet, for some reason, that's even too much to ask these days. We might be turning a quarter, however, as some men are starting to figure out how warped society is for women. Who better to speak about this than a man who was raised by a single mom and now wholeheartedly devotes his following to her? Today we chat with JayDee Milo from TikTok. JayDee, would you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, well, cheers to that intro, baby. Cheers to that, first of all. Yes, I am. I'm JayDee Milo. I have a channel on TikTok that I started roughly 2 years ago. And it's really dedicated to my mother. I grew up with a single mom, and it's my way of really honoring her legacy and all that she's done for me. So, yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
It's amazing. You guys, if you haven't checked it out, you've got to go see this man who is defying all of our expectations of men and completely calling out all of the deadbeat daddies in our lives.
I can't stand them.
I can't begin to express to you in words my appreciation for your channel. I know we discussed this a little bit before we came on. It's a unique perspective into the life of single moms that we would not see otherwise portrayed by a dude. How did you come to start that particular category of content? Can you tell us your story?
Yeah. So at the beginning of, I'd say last year, the end of like 2019-ish, 2020, sorry, I started a YouTube channel. I actually started on YouTube and I was doing like a TMZ style of channel where I was like reporting current news and
I'll have to go follow it.
Yeah, it didn't really take off too well, but I was trying to like figure out where I fit in content creation because I'm a creative person. I've always been. I'm actually classically trained on the violin. Like I've always really found any type of creation to be cathartic. So I was like, you know what? It's the digital age. I need to get onto some type of social media platform. So tried it on YouTube, and it was long content is a little harder for me. I think I'm better with shorter formed content. And somebody said to me, you should really try TikTok. And at that time, I didn't even have the app downloaded. I had no idea. I've heard of TikTok, but I didn't know anything past that. So I was like, you know what? If I'm going to try this thing on TikTok, if I download this app, I want to do something that matters. Like I want to make a difference. I want to do something meaningful. So I instantly knew that this could be a way to honor my mom and tell her story. She actually passed away in 2011 from a sudden accidental overdose of fentanyl, which is a dangerous drug. Yeah. That's prescribed to so many people for pain. And that's what my mother was on it for. But so I knew I wanted to honor her legacy and really, kind of explain her story and all that she had done for me. So I began posting a few videos that told a little bit about her story and what she'd been through and my experience as the son of a single mom. And I was flooded with messages from other women with very, very similar stories. You and I had talked before this, and you said that you have a very similar story to my mother's. And I realized there's so many women that share the same experience, abusive, toxic men, narcissistic men that really try to control every aspect of your life. And once I started realizing the impact that just a few of my videos were making, I was like, oh my God, I'm onto something here. And I realized I could do two things at one here. I could tell my story, my mother's story, but I could also help women understand that they're not alone. I think a lot of single mothers think that they're the only ones, or it feels that way anyway. You feel like there's no one else that understands the stress and the anxiety and all that comes along with single motherhood. What I found too is that a lot of single moms have gone through horrible trauma. That PTSD and single motherhood a lot of times go hand in hand. The level of abuse that a lot of women go through at the hands of a lot of these deadbeat sperm donors, as I like to refer to them as.
That's another thing, is you're a thespian. I think that's also why your channel is quite, it's there is humor.
I try to, for me, I needed to try to figure out how to add a comedic spin to it because it's such a serious topic. And I'm all about having serious conversations. And I do on my channel. There's a lot of videos that are not funny at all. And they're really like to the core and explain exactly where I'm trying to go with this, but for me, I think my mother too would appreciate the laughter through it, because she's the one who taught me that, like, through horrible pain, laughter sometimes is the best medicine, as corny as that sounds. So,
I would have loved this woman. I would have
oh,
loved.
she was so funny. Like, seriously, she was the funniest person that was like that I've ever met in my entire life. And so anyway, I've tried to at least get my point across and let women know that they're not alone, and really get my point across about these men that have no problem abandoning the children that they create. And, try to add just my own flair on it, I guess. And it, for me, it seemed to work. So that's
Yeah.
how I got here, is that whole journey.
It's very eerie almost how close your videos are to the content that you're speaking about in them. I'm like, how can
Yeah.
this man know that?
Oh, I
Like the
know.
heroin one the other day, spending the child support on heroin.
Yeah.
And my daughter's father struggles with drug addiction, and that's literally what goes down. And it's like, so there are some serious ones mixed in there.
Yeah.
But it's just so unique that, because it's like you can tell you've lived it. You can
Yeah.
tell, not that you have lived it as the deadbeat dad, but that you have watched somebody firsthand go through it. It's amazing.
I actually, the other day, I was just counting in my own family how many single moms there are, and there's 14 just in my family alone, single mothers. It truly is an epidemic, but through personal experience, not just watching my mom, but watching aunts and cousins and really close friends, women that I love, strong women that have made an impact on me in my life, watching them, the stories that I tell, there's not one TikTok that I've ever created that's not a true story somewhere in my life. They're all true stories. Inspiration does come from other women outside too, but every one of those is a true personal story in some aspect, which, that I guess says it in itself. This is an epidemic. This is a huge problem in society. And I get this criticism all the time. Why do you only speak about single moms and not single dads? Or why do you only attack deadbeat dads and not deadbeat moms? And for me, it's because of the, first of all, personal experience, right? I come from a single mom, but not only that, I'm shedding light on something that is the majority here. There's 12.2 million single mothers in the US alone compared to 2 million single fathers. They exist. And I know they do. And I take nothing away from single fathers. I think they're amazing. But I choose to shine a light on the true epidemic here. You know what I mean by that?
I think that you're a man who has allowed to put his ego down, and you have sit down, shut up, and listened to women. And as such, you have evolved. Isn't that something?
You're right. You're right. And I mean, strong, amazing women have raised me, not just my mother. And I'm so lucky to be able to say that, these amazing women. I don't have a lot of male role models. I really don't. Actually, I don't even know if I have any in my personal life. I don't. And I feel like I'm biased. If a woman tells me a story about their toxic ex, I automatically take the side of the woman. And it's because 9 times out of 10 in my life, they were the victim. The guy was the asshole, So not all men suck and not all men are bad, but we need to step up, men. We need to step it up.
I have heard that from other men who wanted to be the example rather than say they're the example, that men need to do better. And I do think that rather than say it, you show it. And there's something to be said for that. But on the topic of there being more women than men, for decades, we've heard the rhetoric that moms always get the kids and in court, or that dads get the shit end of the stick. And in my experience, I've witnessed just the opposite. What do you think makes our court system broken, and what needs to happen to change it?
Well, in terms of, let's say, child support collection, we'll start there. Most states will enforce what's called wage garnishment. So that requires that the non-paying parent's employer to send a percentage of their paycheck to the state or county or whatever, and then in turn, that's supposed to be sent to the other parent, right? Now, the IRS usually can intercept and take from a parent's federal tax return. But 2 things actually happen here, and it happens quite often. Number 1, a lot of men will stop working altogether so that wages are no longer garnished.
Under the table.
Under the table is number 2. Exactly. A lot of men will work under the table. They'll find jobs that pay cash and have no taxes coming out. And then this way, there's nothing to report for wages. So what happens then is courts and judges and the law, they don't enforce what the actual law is when it comes to child support not being collected. What's supposed to happen is a subsequent, like, the driver's license is supposed to be revoked, passport's supposed to be revoked, and all of this is supposed to lead up to jail time, incarceration. The problem is it rarely happens. Like, it rarely happens where you see a man in prison or in jail for child support or back arrears. A lot of times I've noticed that if they are in jail, it's for something else, and they'll mix it with the child support. So I think that we need to start there with actual child support enforcement. The law needs to actually enforce it. You can't have a law if there's no follow through. And I'm with you. I've seen the opposite too, where a lot of women will go to court, and the opposite happens. It's not the men, in my experience or what I've heard, that get the shit end of the stick. It's the exact opposite, where the women come out of the courtroom not being heard, with proof and evidence that shows that this man is abusive and toxic and neglectful and have missed visits and all of that. And he still comes out of the court with either 50-50 or sometimes even worse. I've heard of horrible cases where children have been molested by their father, and there's evidence with this, and that hasn't been heard in court. So yeah, I've actually really heard quite the opposite. And I think that it needs to start with the law. We need to get better with holding people accountable. And again, we're talking men, but in any instance where there's any parent that's not doing what they're supposed to be doing by law, we need to enforce that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
For the betterment of the child. Well, that's everybody's whole thing, you know. That's a pro-life, pro-choice thing that we won't get into, but it's like we're so for supporting the baby until the baby comes, and then
exactly. And then who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares? Like, they're already here, so whatever. And it's like, no, we need to have that same passion that all of these people have before the baby's born to when they are, you know, and all this stuff is happening. And here's my thing too, with when it comes to deadbeats and family court and all of that. If a deadbeat doesn't want to be around or wants to half-ass things, then give up your rights. Just give up your friggin' rights. That's how I feel. It would make everything easier. The in and out, slow, like when they peek in and out when it's convenient for them, is way more detrimental, in my opinion, to the child. It causes way more stress on a kid when they're expecting daddy to come and it doesn't show up or whatever. If you don't want to be in your kid's life full time, then don't be at all. Resign. Yes. And let her do what she needs to do, because I hear from single moms all the time, and that's what they would rather a lot of times.
Yeah. They
don't even want anything.
Yeah, no. Yeah. I know so many women who are like, if he just didn't exist.
Yeah, just leave me alone. Leave me alone. Like,
it's like having a third kid. It's literally like raising another child.
Yeah.
And you're not getting paid for it, you know?
And you're not getting paid for it.
And it's a grown person.
You're a grown-ass man. So if you don't want to be involved, do the right thing and fucking give up your, sorry, I don't know if we can curse on here, but give up your rights.
You can say whatever you want.
Okay, cool. But so anyway, I think that's where it needs to start. And I also really try to encourage women that are single moms to file for child support, even though it's not always enforced properly and all of that. It needs to start with us as well, and not letting men get away with these types of things. Now, I know there's another side to that argument of, I don't want anything from him, because if I go for child support, then he's allowed to have some say and stuff like that. So I know that there's
the state, but
yes, it depends on the state. So I know that there's specific cases, but I think that men in this situation need to be held accountable from all ends. It's not okay to have the balls to make them, but not the balls to raise them. That's not okay, you know? So I just think we need to hold these men, these deadbeats, accountable across the board.
So then, speaking of dads, and I almost felt uncomfortable asking you this, because I don't know if you feel comfortable answering. You don't have to, but
I'm open.
If you feel comfortable answering, are you a father yourself, or is your own father a deadbeat? Would you say that some of that is the catalyst for the behavior of these men who seemingly want to make a child but don't want to raise it? Like, what goes on?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm not a father, no, not yet, but I do hope one day that I'll have
Okay.
a kid of my own or two. I'm a happily single gay guy right now who's the daddy to a little chihuahua. I don't know if you could see him in the background, but
It's a
no, I
great
don't.
dog.
He's so cool, Toby. But so, and as far as my father, yes, he was your stereotypical deadbeat dad, as we know the definition to be. In and out of my life, mainly out of my life, in and out of jail, didn't help my mother with a dime, was extremely abusive to her while they were married, and also to my older brother as well. So my mother divorced my father when she gave birth to me. I was like, I think 3 months or 4 months old. And
Okay.
she did that so that I wouldn't grow up with the abuse that unfortunately she suffered and my older brother suffered. My brother is actually mentally handicapped due to the severe abuse that was inflicted by my father. So,
I'm
but
so
I,
sorry.
yeah, I think people don't realize the PTSD and all of that. Like these things, the forms of abuse that are not just physical, they last. They have lasting effects on people for the rest of their lives, and I know that
Yeah.
personally as well. So I can only imagine what they went through, and being able to grow up in a situation where I didn't see my father be abusive towards my mother, but my mother did get into relationships with other men that were very abusive. So I
Yeah,
did
they
witness it.
recycle themselves. Uh, they hide themselves
Yeah.
very well, and then boo.
And then they show up. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think my mother, bless her heart, almost I feel like she thought she deserved that. That's all she ever knew. Um,
maybe.
and yeah, I think that it's what she was used to, sometimes like a man
She
that's
probably she just wanted probably to be loved, and I
yes.
think that probably whatever was available to her, we're so tired.
Yeah,
So any bit of
exactly.
relief is like, oh, and then by the time we find out, it's too late.
Literally, yeah. And then you're too wrapped into it. So she
Yeah.
always did her best to shield me and my older brother from a lot of it. Again, my brother grew up with way more than I did as far as abuse. I really grew up with a lot of love and a lot of it was very quiet and peaceful for the most part. But
Yeah.
she did kind of always, again, like it's hard for me to think of the, I guess, stereotypical white straight male as like a great guy. And I know that there's plenty, but I really have grown up watching smash the patriarchy is my damn quote of the day, because
I
it's
mean, if the shoe fits, all these
if
white
the
men
shoe
on TikTok, they always want to be like not all men, and it's like,
yeah,
oh, okay, that's a cute picture of you and your kid that you haven't seen in 3 years in that profile picture. Not all
literally.
guys. Like,
Yeah, exactly. That you
like,
probably stole from your baby mom's page. Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I think with my father, though, I can say that we have come full circle in the sense of I don't hold resentment towards my father. And a big reason why is because my mother didn't. After all of the years of what he put her through, she always was very, first of all, open to me having a relationship with him. She never blocked that. She never got in the middle of that. Did I want a relationship with him? No. But if I did, she would have been more than willing to, bring me over to his house or whatever the case was. But he does message me from time to time on Facebook. I know he tries now, later in his life,
yeah,
because he's getting older. My mother has since passed. And I can see that he's trying. For me, it's not that it's too late, but I don't know him very well. Not in the
yeah.
sense of like we don't have a relationship like that. So I don't hold resentment towards this man. I don't hate my father.
You're just two dudes who happen to be related.
There it is,
Yeah,
literally. And I think he would describe it very differently. But for me, that's how I feel. I was my mother's son. Everything that I did revolved around trying to make her proud and trying to make her realize, she did good. And it had nothing to do with my father. And a lot of times people think that my TikToks and my content are because of my father, and they actually have nothing to do with him. They
yeah.
do in a roundabout way, but that critique almost annoys me more because it's about my mother. It's way more about the empowerment of single mothers and what she did for me. The deadbeat thing, that's just a secondary to this,
I,
if that
I
makes
don't
sense.
even think that they're in spite of him. I would say that your dad was pretty good research. I mean,
Absolutely.
honestly.
That's like the perfect way to describe it. Yes.
I mean, I don't want to speak of the man illy. I don't know him and make
No.
him a noun like that, but your experiences with him provided you with this content that you you have done your research, like you
Literally.
factually
Yeah.
know what you're talking about. That
Yeah.
makes more sense now watching your TikToks because you really did live it.
Lived it. It was like a lifetime of an internship, watching
Yeah.
what happens when a woman raises kids on her own with very low income. She was a waitress. We didn't have a car. She walked to and from work every single day, 6
Oh,
days
I
a
bet
week.
it was a colorful childhood.
It was a colorful childhood, but it was filled, like I said, with lots of love and laughter. I
Yeah.
could just remember when I think of my childhood, it was just full of laughter. Like my mother would make me piss my pants from laughter. And it just, we did what we could with the money that we had. And that was never in my brain. Like we're so poor, we don't have enough. I had everything I needed.
It sounds like your mom loved life despite everything that had been thrown at her, and that she had a lot of love in her heart and probably thought that her time on earth was too brief to be bitter.
Yeah, you're spot on with that. Yeah. And it really reminds me to live that same exact way, that same exact, I guess, sentiment.
Yeah, you seem like a very joyful person, and typically that type of joy is inherited.
Yeah, you're right. And like, there's no point in being bitter, or it doesn't serve me. I remember her always saying that to me. She used to call me Pussycat. She never called me JayDee. She'd always call me Pussycat, but she'd be like, Pussycat, if it doesn't serve you and your soul and your heart, let it go. Let it go. So I try to carry that with me. If it's not going to do me any good in my soul, it's no point in thinking about it or renting space in my brain. And that also has to do with my father. There's not much there either way. Yeah.
So, on the note of your father, seems like a patriarchal type of individual.
Yeah.
Until the end of time, I will post videos about the patriarchy, calling it out on its nonsense, and every time being met with the response in the comments section, not all men, which I know we just discussed a minute ago. I know that you know better than to say that. Instead, you show it, like we were talking about earlier. What example do you hope to set for the rest of the men out there? And what do you hope people, men and women alike, will take from your videos?
First off, I want men that disappear from their kids' lives to understand the effect that it has on everyone, not just, her. It's usually to spite her, but it has effects on their kids that are long lasting. It's not something that just goes away, right? When children grow up without a father or without both parents, a lot of times this plays on self-esteem. They feel like they weren't loved enough or good enough. It's like their first heartbreak. I remember seeing other kids with moms and dads, like at parent-teacher conferences or recitals, and I think it had an impact on me very early on in my life, and it stayed with me. I suffer from a lot of anxiety and self-esteem issues, or it's gotten better throughout my life, but I have suffered with those two things in specific, along with addiction. And I'm not saying that everything stems from that, but I think a lot of it deep down does.
Played a part. Yeah,
I think more than maybe I realize. In my family alone, I was telling you this, there's 14 single mothers that I can count in my own family tree.
Out of probably like 20 people. It's probably like 3/4 of the women. Yeah.
Literally 3/4, probably 75%. It's crazy. And a lot of people ask why I only talk about single moms and not single dads. And it's due to my experience and also the stats. Statistics don't lie. In the US alone, there's over 12 million single moms compared to 2 million single dads. So I'm not saying that they don't exist. Single dads do.
But that's a statistic I didn't know.
And that's just in this country. That's just in this country. I get messages from all over the world of people in Australia and every continent. This is happening, so I just choose to shine a light on the majority here. And from personal experience, men do need to do better. And I hope that more women feel empowered to leave toxic relationships and take these deadbeats for child support, right? Whether or not the courts will hold them accountable, that's a whole other thing. But it does start with us. But mainly, I want to empower single moms to feel special and to feel heard and to feel not alone. I watched my mom struggle to give her kids the best life she could on a waitress salary. And there's nothing that I feel like I missed out on because we had everything that we needed, right? We had a lot of love. We had a lot of laughter. I wasn't missing out on anything. And so for me, I just know that there's tons of single moms that don't feel good enough, or that they're lacking in some way, or they're not giving enough to their kids. There's too much stress. They're doing everything on their own. And I hope that even if it's one video that comes across their page that allows them to either not feel alone or smile for a moment and, the best message I can get from a single mom is just, you allowed me to just relax for a moment and just laugh. Like I was able to just laugh through this stressful day. Then it's all worth it for me. That's what this is about for me.
Or feel heard. I feel heard
Yeah.
in a lot of your videos. It's relatable
Yeah.
content. That's the gold
Yeah.
right there, man.
It's relatable. You're right. And you know what I love too is looking underneath in the comments and watching women support other women and sharing each other's contact information and forming a community. It's almost like I have this single mom nation community going on. And I love that. I love that
You
because
do have that.
I'm simply the author. I'm telling the story. I'm not doing the hard work, right? I'm reporting the news. And I love that there's other women that can rely on people that are in the same boat. That helps you get through situations. When I know that I'm not alone and you know what I'm going through, or you can sort of relate, that's how I know that things are going to be okay. So I hope that I'm doing that.
Empathy. Empathy, is that the right word?
Yeah, exactly.
Feeling what you feel or something of that nature.
Exactly.
My soul recognizes your soul.
Yes. And I'm not alone, right? We're not alone in any of this stuff. So I hope I'm doing that. I hope I'm forming this community where people can rely on each other. And
I
hope that's coming across.
I feel privileged to talk to you now because I do feel as though you'll be hitting 1 million here somewhere down the line.
Oh, girl, speak it out there. Come on. No, I'm so honored to be on this podcast. I was like, what? You want me to talk on your? I love it. No, I love it. I appreciate it.
It's so nice to meet your acquaintance. And I'm really excited for this last question.
Okay.
It's kind of unrelated, but it's related. Your channel is dedicated to your mother, Sandy. Yeah. And tell us your best memory with her. I'm probably gonna cry. And
me too.
What do you think that she would tell the single moms of the world if she could speak to us today?
My mom, Sandy, was really, really funny, like piss your pants funny.
Yeah.
And I think the best memories I have of my mother, me and her loved to listen to Mariah Carey, and we would grab hairbrushes and we would just stand on the furniture. And I mean, if she didn't know she had a gay child when I was like 4 years old, I don't know what else would tell it, because I mean, Jesus, but we would just blast the freaking stereo and scream to Mariah Carey's CD from front to end, and just enjoy each other's company for whatever that moment was. Like, the stress of the world would stop in that moment with my mom. And I just remember, she was a fixer. She always wanted to do for everybody else. And being able to just have her in that moment to myself, and being able to just be silly with her, I guess is the best memories I have of my mother.
What a beautiful thing that was just you guys chilling in your own like place where you lived, and it was a free thing that you guys did together. And it really is the simple things,
Literally, you don't need all this money to take your kids to all these amusement parks. That's great, but sometimes it's just like, grab a game board, man, or just like stuff like that. That's the stuff that I remember the most. That's what sticks with people. So
beautiful memory.
It really was. Yeah, I really did. I had a great, fun childhood. And I hope that my mom would be proud of the work that I'm trying to do. And also, I hope she'd find a lot of it funny and, entertaining, and everything that I'm trying to get across. I hope that she, would enjoy the content. So, and not to be so, what I'm trying to, I guess, get across to other single moms, and I said this before, but it's true, is to not be so hard on yourself, because she was. I remember a lot of times hearing her cry in another room and hiding it from me, and I could hear her through the door sniffling. And I know a lot of single moms do that. I know a lot of moms do that in general, but I could only imagine, trying to hide that from your kids. It's hard. The stress of the day, you don't want to show them, but you're
saying she would tell us to give ourselves a break.
Absolutely. And to focus on the things that really matter, and to not be so hard on yourselves, and to understand that if your kids don't appreciate you now, they will eventually. I wasn't always this outwardly appreciative. I always was as a child. Looking at her, I was always very, very grateful that my mom was doing so much for me, but I wasn't this open. It wasn't until I became an adult where I was like, God, man, Mom, I really saw and see what you've done for me by yourself with no help. And I think a lot of single moms have younger kids that don't relay that same message. And I promise you that if they don't now, eventually in life, they will. It'll always come back around.
When they have to pay bills, yeah.
Yes, when they have to pay bills or when they have kids of their own, you
Yeah.
realize that this shit is not easy. It's not easy. And I think my mom, actually, I know my mom because she said it when she was alive, that women in general need to be easier on themselves and more patient and not so hard on themselves, especially add the single mom on there, that whole thing. Yeah, just be easy with yourself and know you're trying your best and no one's perfect and you're doing the work of not two, but in my opinion, 10,
Yeah,
so
it's a village. It
it
takes
is a village. Yeah. So I know that that's what she would want to say to single moms if she was still alive.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I feel Sandy's presence with us.
Oh
I
man,
really
she was the
do.
best. Yes, she was the best. She really was.
Well, that's the end of our show. I do want to thank you, JD, for coming on today. Do you have
Yeah.
anything that you want the audience to know? Anything you want to say? Anything that you've got going on in your life?
Just that message. Like really, just any single mom that's watching this or hearing this, be easy on yourself, man. You are doing so much. You're doing the work. Like you said, it takes a village and you're doing it by yourself. And that's what I'm doing this for. That's what I want. That's the message that I want to get across is just be easy on yourself. It'll all work out. My mother always used to say, what was the saying? Oh gosh. Oh, you can't fall from the floor. It's a funny saying of like, when
Nice.
things are shitty, man, and things are not going the way that you want them to, there's only one way you can go, and it's up. And things always work out. Things always get better. We've been through so much, right? Especially single mothers. You've been through so much. You're going to get through this, right? It's day by day sometimes. But
It's brilliant. The woman was
yeah,
brilliant.
she was great. She was a very smart woman. But yeah, man. So
Well, cool.
that's kind of what I'll leave it off at, I guess.
Well, if you guys want to hear more about Sandy, you can always check out JayDee Milo's page that's dedicated to her, especially if you're a single mom. I am Brooke. Thank you for joining us today on Bite Me. Be sure to check out the website, Twitter, and Instagram. We'll see you guys next time.